This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monte Mohr with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can follow along and subscribe at talkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Monty.
Carey Ann.
Good to see you.
Are we blessed today to have the one and only Mr. Art Kelly with us today? Thanks, Art, for joining us. We're so grateful for that.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You know, I love Art Kelly because, you know, he approaches this business with a sincere heart to make more friends. With a sincere heart to serve humanity at one of the most important times of their life. I mean, Art, that's awesome, dude. I mean, that's real, isn't it? That's real. You're not faking it. That's real.
No, I don't know any other way to be.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I have this conviction that I've shared with our family here at Realty One Group Music City that if we would just honor the relationship with those who have blessed us with the opportunity to serve them and do the next right thing in every situation the best we can. There's situations that are out of our control, but do the best we can so that when the deal does close, hopefully it will, that the consumer on the other end of that experience will never, ever hesitate referring us to their family and friends. Mm-hmm. That's when it's not the measurement of the dollar. That's when we know we did a good job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree.
Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that over the years, part of the reason why I started telling people this stuff was because I saw a lot of people that walked away from their experiences with real estate agents and they didn't have anything good to say about the process. They didn't feel like they felt like they got used like a commodity. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, what would happen if we would just love people well, you know? And I'm
Simple.
Finding in my business,
just that,
yeah,
just that, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I'm finding in my own business that's coming back, you know, as a great return because people reciprocate that whenever you give it, and you don't do it because you're going to get it back. But you get it back because you do it.
Right.
You know?
So Art, I know you were with us about a year ago. So refresh the audience, maybe those who don't know you, and tell us who you are and how long you've been in the business, how you got in the business, and a little bit about you, okay?
So I got into business in 2016. I was about 40 years old, and my wife and I had some come to Jesus conversations about what I was going to do when I grew up. And I really loved working with people, and I knew that real estate would have been a great opportunity. I mean, I saw all the people moving here from places like California, Michigan, New York, and stuff. And my wife is a business owner as well. She's a photographer.
Oh.
So
very
shout
talented.
out to my wife, Rebecca Kelly Photography in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw all these people that she had a lot of clients that were coming here from out of state. And so it just was like, okay, well, why don't I figure out how to sell homes and, you know, be on the welcome wagon for people that get here. Mm-hmm. And then I've been a part of several different brokerages and got a chance to learn so many different things from so many great people in the business. Mm-hmm. And now I'm almost 10 years in the business and just joined you guys here at Realty One. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
We're excited about that.
I think it's going to be great. And, but a couple years ago, I took all the experiences that I'd been having in business and I put it into a book, and I call it The 7 Spheres of a Friend Maker, how to build your business on friendship. And I just basically teach people that there's these things that you do with your clients that, you know, if you just do these things and you love your clients well, long after you sell them something, you'll communicate to them that you're not using them, but that you're trying to connect them with a greater community, and you're helping them figure out how to do life in the city. You know, as a real estate agent, I'm pretty much, me and my mortgage person, we're the first people that a lot of people are meeting. And so it only made sense for me to connect them with all the good people that I know in my area.
Right.
So that way when they do life and they need a plumber or a doctor or a chiropractor or lawyer or whatever, they're using my plumber and my chiropractor, my lawyer, because they're my friends and I've been doing business with and I've vetted them personally. And so anyway, I started teaching that to agents all over the place. I've been traveling and doing a lot of speaking engagements. And so just trying to get that message out. And then at the same time, I'm a real estate agent still. So
and a dad,
got 4 kids, halfway to an empty nest, and Yeah, lots going on. So.
I love that. I resonated with your book and your talk because that's kind of how I was doing business. But when you were able to put structure around it, right? Because I just was doing business that way. And then I saw it in, the spheres like you referenced, right? You're like, oh, I was doing that, right? And now there's some structure around what I was actually doing. I think there is really a lot to be said with just being a kind human, number one, right?
Helps.
And not looking at focusing on the sale, but just focusing on, just being out there and being kind. Talk to people. I was at the clerk's office the other day and I'm just looking around. You can just be a fly on the wall. And there's so many mean people around just in general, right? And then, and nobody's talking to anybody. And I just happened to see something with a breast cancer ribbon and I started a conversation, which led down to a 20-minute conversation with Peggy, and you just never know who Peggy knows or, where the relationship with Peggy is going to, result to. And I think that's a big play with what you reference. And one of your good friends has become one of my good friends, Sean Carpenter. I actually just got a note from him today, a handwritten note, and just simply just touching base and saying hi and reaching out for no other reason. He clearly went to the top of my mind, just by that simple note, it's something so simple. And he brought a smile to my face,
Right.
So a lot of the things that I see that you do and he do, that's probably the wrong terminology. He do. It really is something that it's just simple things. It's not complicated. We talk about being the CEO of your own business. We talk about, the formula of success. And really, sometimes it's just going back to basics, just being kind and doing,
Well, it takes
right thing.
a lot of the pressure of feeling like I have to be this, jack of all trades business person. It takes a lot of the pressure off when you just focus on not, like I tell everybody, lead generation sucks. So just make friends,
Right.
If your focus is on
Say that again, would you? Say, because there's so much focus with so many companies.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to pound the phone. You got to do this. You got to do this.
Lead generation sucks. Nobody wants to do lead generation. Yeah. So just make friends. It's so much easier to just focus on.
I think that's an
when you
old
talk to
Girl
people.
Scout song.
Make
New friends. Or
So
I wasn't in the Girl Scouts, so I don't know how that goes, but yeah.
Glad to hear that.
there's a good Kenny Rogers song. Me and I love the good Kenny Rogers. Hence my friend here who reminds me of him often. And Dolly Parton and said, you can't make old friends. Have you ever heard the song? It'll bring you to tears.
Probably. So.
But it's all about just friends. Like you can't make old friends, meaning when you've been a true friend, you can't just rebirth another one overnight. There's something deep there. And that kind of goes back to what you're saying, deep core. Now, what you also need to remember is you can't stay in the friend zone, right? I think you talk about that where you need to remind people that you are in real estate because you can just be friends and then they're talking to Jimmy down the street, about their real estate needs because they think you're just their friend, so making sure you do bring to light.
You have to set boundaries with certain people. You can't make friends with everybody, and you have to be a damn good real estate agent whenever people ask you to do your job. So you have to be good at your job and skilled as a professional. And so that doesn't discount the value of making friends with clients, but you definitely want to be sure that you're backing it up with competence. And
excellence. Yeah.
People need that. They need to see that. And so, I think that's important.
One of the aha moments I had the first time I got to see you speak, Art, was when you shared that you were talking about, the changes in our industry, and we were talking about how confident you are of your value. For one reason is because your clients get your preferred vendor list.
Yeah.
And how big that is. And that really should be a big deal. It really truly should. Those people should be vetted, closely, and people that that you're hanging your reputation on. You don't, because I went through a period of time in my business where I wanted to refer people that I had good experience with, and then some of those people let me down. And I thought, I just can't go there now. I can't refer anybody. But then you lose part of your value as a leader in the community, as in this industry, if you can't refer people. But I hadn't heard the positive spin on it that you had created and the value. Confidence creator, because they're getting your list. Well, that alone is worth 3%, 2 or 3 or 4%, whatever.
That's value right there. Yeah,
I love that.
How do you put a price tag on a lifetime of relationships?
Yeah.
that you can call up and call a friend.
Yeah.
I mean, because their whole philosophy is built all of that business on friendships.
Well, and the thing is, like, to your point, a lot of people in business, we feel hesitancy to refer people because we're like, well, what if they treat them bad? If they treat them bad, they're getting a phone call from me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to find out what happened, and they're not going to get referred again.
Right.
So, and they have a vested interest as well in giving that client a good experience because they want to keep doing business. So, anyhow.
For sure. So what some of the other topics I know we've got that we want to...
I'm going to tell you a quick story real
I love a good story.
Fast.
Love a good story.
I don't think I told you guys about this gentleman. So I sent out I think one thing that we as professionals should always do is own our neighborhood. I know there's some great realtors in the neighborhood that house I own in Florida. Probably, I don't know. But anyhow, the point is, I sent out a letter. I put a lot of thought in it, and I get a phone call. I've gotten 3 phone calls, from that letter because I want to do something special for the neighborhood. 450 homes in it.
Did you handwrite it or type it? I was thinking about that today.
So what I did was I typed it and then copied it in color, which cost double the staples because I don't know. I mean, I put a smiley face on one deal and then my name was signed in blue.
Yeah.
So,
I was curious because I would say that was a lot of handwriting. So that would,
but
you want it clear for them to read it
but
too.
But Aubrey's looking for some part-time work maybe? Because what I did
have good handwriting.
What I did do is I hired my granddaughter to, for $1 an envelope. Okay, that's kind of expensive, so negotiate your own deal. But it was my granddaughter. Well, grandma had something to do with that number. But anyway, so my granddaughter hand addressed each one because who's not going to open up an envelope that's been hand addressed by looks like somebody with really good handwriting, obviously, So anyway, I get this phone call from a gentleman. I could tell he's pretty old over the phone, right off the bat, and turns out that this gentleman is 93 years old. Last June 16th, his wife of 70 years and 77 days passed away.
Wow.
As soon as he said that, I mean, it's one of those, we've been teaching a lot lately on the disc profile and different things, When he said that, I told Connie when I went over there a few days later to meet with him, I said, Connie, I'm not going to list a home. I'm going to meet a friend. I'm just going to just have him talk. You could hear in his voice, he really, really misses Anita was her name, and she died in the home, and he's teared up. It's been 6 months later. They bought that home 46 years ago.
Wow.
When he moved to the neighborhood, he owned a small nursery. He thought it would really be cool to line the streets with oak trees. These oak trees now are 3 feet across, many of them. This neighborhood now has a canopy of these beautiful oak trees going into this subdivision. It's just the oak trees are what's, it's like a frame around a beautiful picture. And I shared on the next huddle call, I said, I met a gentleman who changed my life. And the way he changed my life was thinking in the future of future generations, because the next day, Connie had me planting blueberry bushes around the house. And I found myself intentionally spending more time making sure those were planted with excellence, because it wasn't about what it was going to do for me. It was about what it was going to do for future generations,
Love that.
Yeah, that's really
So that's part of my passion for our industry. I know I'm going to be fine as far as real estate is concerned. Whatever window God blesses me with, that's a year, that's 10 years. It's hard for me to go see beyond 80. I don't want to be in anybody's way, and so forth. But who knows? I might go. I mean, my intention is, if God willing, I'd like to go to triple digits, but not be in the corner. Slobbering on myself.
You seem pretty limber still.
But my point is, that's the kind of conviction that I've had for a while about real estate, is we've got to be thinking of the future to ensure there is a future for our industry. I don't think for a second we'll be ever replaced by AI and an algorithm, but it does. Enough changes happen where we've got to get back into reality with people, and so that they feel our value. There's no question about our value. And anyhow, so Walter changed my life, and what's really interesting here is I have been to that man's house now 4 times and we've talked very little about his home. We've talked about, I took my sons over there and my granddaughter, and day before yesterday, took Connie over there so she could meet him. And on top of this is the real kicker here. He's got the nicest home in the neighborhood. This home took 5 years to build. It's an English Tudor that's pushing 8,000 square feet, not counting the guest quarters.
Wow. And
this is not a multi-million-dollar neighborhood, okay?
Right.
This is just a really unique, it's on 2 lots. At Christmas time, they've got the story of Jesus around on the streets, on that street, and his home is decorated like you just wouldn't believe. He's got his own personal high lift to decorate it. That's how big this house is, But anyway.
Not sure he's on the lift, but maybe he is.
The whole point of the story is, it's about those relationships. It's
Creating
about,
friends,
lending an ear and connecting with somebody and meeting their needs. Yeah, he's starting this. He almost died 2 weeks before we met, and that's what caused a little urgency in his heart. That I don't want to leave this for my kids to wrestle over. I want to clear the slate on that part of it. So it's not an easy listing, but boy, what a great friend already.
Great story too. Yeah.
Thank you.
What a story.
That is amazing.
So Art, you mentioned when we spoke earlier that the market is interesting right now.
Yeah.
Is that the word you used?
It's been
That's a
interesting
good word.
for a long
We should
time,
use
right?
yeah.
It's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've been hanging on that the
Interesting.
cliff of interesting. It's like tomorrow's a different day,
Yeah.
and here we go. We're still interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It is 2025, and I my conviction is once people get a little past the shock and awe that we've been going through as a country, I think that I really believe by the end of this year it's going to be a total different world. I really believe that we're going to be really rocking and rolling here. Obviously, I think we need a little help from the interest rates, or some more creativity,
Right.
in that arena. But I'm excited about the future.
Yeah.
Especially for those of us who have the conviction of making friends, of serving humanity. Because I've said from the get-go that we wouldn't have dealt with that lawsuit had everybody felt like they were honored and served as by professionals.
Yeah.
People don't have a problem paying for a Ritz-Carlton experience if they feel like they got a Ritz-Carlton experience. It's when they feel like they just stayed at the Days Inn and said, what? When they saw the bill, That's my conviction anyhow. Tell me, what are your thoughts about today's market?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think people need to experience a wow from us, and they haven't, and by and large. And so that's kind of got us in the mess that we're in. I think, though, the thing that I've started to just not do is listen to everybody else's opinion about what's going on in the market.
Amen.
Everybody has, everybody's an armchair quarterback, right?
Yep.
Everybody has an idea.
Yep.
Well, the rates are going to go up. The rates are going to go down. I heard somebody the other day told me that the prices are all going to come down 20% because the rates haven't come down. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it's the economy. One of the things that I've been a big student of the personal growth gurus, Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, and
love those guys.
Jim Rohn used to say when he was faced with questions about the economy, he's like, the economy's let me tell you about the economy. So you're going to have times of abundance, and then we're going to have times of scarcity, and then we're going to have times of abundance, and then we're going to have times of scarcity. It's going to go up, and it's going to go down. It's going to go up, it's going to go down.
Yep.
And so the economy is going to do what the economy is going to do. The question is, what am I doing consistently every single day to take control of my own economy? And
so true.
And I think a lot of us just kind of feel like, well, we use it as an excuse. I did this last couple of years. I was like, well, the rates are going too high and prices aren't coming down, blah, blah, blah. But I also wasn't making new friends. I wasn't making a lot of phone calls. I was expecting the work I did the first 5 years of my business to sustain me the next 5 years. And I've come to realize that when opportunity comes knocking, sometimes when you open the door, work answers.
So
And
true.
you just
The
have to
equation is
get
still the
back to
same. Like if you and I still want to make the same amount of money or what we need to make, right, to
Yeah.
raise, the 4 children, et cetera, I only have one. I cannot believe how you have 4. It's a lot.
Well, they're almost out of the house
Yeah,
already.
thank
so
goodness.
that's good.
Yeah. But if you have to still. We learned this in math class. Like the factors are still the same. So if this one is going to be, not as many people are going to easily feel as comfortable to say yes because of affordability or because of an interest rate. Yeah. I will say there's an excitement to apply. So the applications are up, right? So that's a win. It's just, creating that comfort, zone for the folks and affordability there. But if that is different, we have to talk to more people. We have to make more friends, like you said. Right. And that's so true. We've got to decide that if our little market that we're in is not as fruitful as it needs to be, we need to look up and we need to get in our car and we need to drive to where, there's opportunity. And we're really blessed, I think, here in Middle Tennessee where there's so much opportunity. Middle Tennessee literally is... we've got a girl in the lobby that drives almost over an hour, right? And to come to this, office. But there's opportunity, 2 hours north, 2 hours south, within Middle Tennessee. So we have lots of opportunity.
Well, recently somebody told me that in greater Nashville, we are still having like 75 people a day closing on houses. Somebody told me that 24 of those 75 are closing in Rutherford County, where I live.
Wow, yeah.
And so I'm thinking, well, then how do I get in front of that business?
Right.
Not oh my gosh, woe is me. The market, somebody else was closing on a house today. My question is, how do I get to be one of those agents that's closing a house today?
Right.
And so just trying to get outside of my own negative cycle of thinking, to realize that there's business that's happening. It's just maybe not happening to me.
Yeah, and in thinking different, acting different. What got us here won't get us there. We say that all the time, but are we actually listening to what we say?
That's right.
For a lender myself, if I'm not getting business, this direction, and I'm putting all my eggs in one basket, I just need to diversify. And or if new construction is the highlight because possibly they're offering more concessions, and or maybe a lower interest rate, but that lender is not able to, approve as many. It would be crazy now for me to build a friendship with lender A, lender B, right? And say, hey, I'm your gal. If something goes awry or, sideways, give me a call, right? And that's a huge opportunity for me. And I've been doing that for many, many years. So thinking different, right? Acting different, I think is going to be the key. But continuing to do all things with a kindness and a smile, and lead with your heart, I think is wonderful. Because you and I just think of myself, like all these people knock, and they are doing that for a purpose. But sometimes my life does not allow me to, make the connection back, right? And so, but if you just stopped sending the note or if you stopped sending the email, you just never know. Like today I sent an email and this girl happened to read it. And I happened to solve her problem on a veteran who's 100% disabled. Made my heart just, just soar with joy, all of the things. But if I never sent the email, I would not have been connected with her, right? Yeah. So you doing the things are really important. Even if you don't think that they worked yesterday, it may work today.
Well, and sometimes the person who didn't use you yesterday will refer you tomorrow.
Correct.
So maybe they won't buy a house with you, or maybe they won't use you for your services. But if you focus on salvaging the relationship over the transaction, the relationship is worth so many referrals, But too many of us, we're so narrow-minded about how we look at the people that are maybe our competitors, other realtors or other mortgage people or whatever. And the truth is that not everybody's going to connect well with my personality. People aren't always going to, want to work with me, and that's fine. And if they don't, then am I going to just ditch them as a friend because they didn't use me in business? And I see that happening all the time. People getting butthurt over that kind of stuff. And it's just not worth, there's just so much business to be had, so many referrals to be had.
Right.
Don't burn bridges with people who don't use you for the business, because what will happen is they'll come back and they'll refer business, or maybe they'll repeat business with you someday. The
law of reciprocity is a real thing.
Yeah.
If you love on people enough, you work on becoming top of mind enough, they want to give back.
Yeah,
they
listen,
do.
I will say this: it doesn't take the sting out of it when somebody does decide to go with somebody else, right? Like there is that real, that's a real feeling. You're like, oh man, I really wish they'd used me.
Well, what's there to gain other than to continue to love them?
Yeah.
What's there to gain by, damn it, or get on?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, what do you, I mean?
Speaking of damn it.
So Art, you're not. I mean, you're super agent. I know that you're very successful and everything. You got it going on, but I'm sure you have to win the battle between your ears as well.
So true.
Yeah.
You know, and I've said that for years. Is that it's not about the interest rate. It's not about who's running the government or whatever. It's about winning this battle. That's where the battle rages.
Yeah.
So what do you do to stay focused? You mentioned a couple of guys who I grew up on as far as when I got when somebody actually at church one night handed me a Zig Ziglar book.
Uh-huh.
He handed me $100 bill. He said, "Monty, go buy yourself a new pair of shoes. You'll feel better about yourself," because he could see my socks hanging out. And I was on a laid off factory worker. And he said, "And I want you to read this book." And it was "See You at the Top" by Zig Ziglar. And that's where life told me that, or I learned for the first time at maybe 33 years old, whatever I was at the time, that life would pay whatever we demand of it.
Yeah.
You know, and then that turned me on to Jim Rohn and some other ones that you've mentioned. So what do you do to stay on top of it? Because that is, I think, what's most critical is you've got to win the battle here in order to win the battle out here.
Yeah. Well, I'm like a sponge with personal growth stuff, right? So like I listen to podcasts. A few years ago, it was Brian Buffini. That was a big one for me.
Yeah, he's good.
And he was the one who kind of really was like, "Hey, you need to listen to the greats, Earl Nightingale, Og Mandino." I have a copy of Og's book, The Greatest Salesman in the World.
It's a great book.
I mean, I carry it with me everywhere I go.
Yeah,
and
great book.
Napoleon Hill. So I read a lot. I listen to podcasts a lot. I listen to inspirational music. I know Brandon Lake's a big praise and worship guy right now. I've been using that's just been really helpful. This last 3 months has been the hardest 3 months for me personally in my business. For whatever reason, I had a big lull, right? I sold a house in December and I just closed on one today. Thank God, finally.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah.
And I have 3 or 4 more coming in the next few weeks. But but during that time period, I actually read a book by a guy named John Gordon who wrote The Energy Bus.
Yeah, he's good.
This book is called The Carpenter.
Love it.
It's a really, really great book.
Good book.
If you're in a spot where you're just in a spot, I recommend John Gordon's book, The Carpenter. That helped me to really focus on what it is that the essential, the core of what he tries to teach is that you just dig in and love people well. That's it. And so I made a decision at the beginning of the year that I was going to try to I had a lofty goal. I'm going to make 1,000 new friends.
Wow.
I'm nowhere near reaching that goal. But I mean, I've made about 60 new contacts. I've added them into my CRM. I realized the answer to my problem has been, I need more people in my database.
Sure.
If I have a good 500 or 600 people in my database that I'm in constant regular communication, contact, care, and community with, I'll have referral business. Everybody that I know has been doing this business 15, 20 years or more, they have at least that many in their database. And that's what they're doing. And so I know that just by digging in, and so I split my time up where I spent about half my day in either networking groups or one-on-one, or I started striking up random conversations with people at the coffee shop.
Peggy, yeah.
That's right. And then, I'm on Facebook groups. I'm on social media. I've really upped my social media game. I'm constantly posting. I'm constantly putting stuff out there.
Sure.
And it's just massive action. And so, and that's been super helpful. Most of the business I have that I'm sitting on right now didn't actually directly come from any of the stuff I've been doing the last 3 months.
Yeah. But that momentum
it's the
attracts
momentum.
other things,
and it's the mental
correct,
focus.
Correct.
Yep.
The average Joe would, when you're down, and things are going not as good as we want, we basically start to pull back even further, right? We start to cut and cut and cut. And the hardest thing for us to do is to infuse even more energy, right?
Yep.
When we're feeling like maybe this isn't for me, or maybe this industry isn't for me, to be able to, raising kids is the same way, right? Look up, shoulders back, say your affirmations. You've got this, right? And you and I, we all, have this. And if you've been in this business long enough, we have seen, the ups and downs. If you've been birthed in this business over the last only so many years, right? You were welcomed into pure chaos, which was just, you just raining like confetti, it was, and then we got, as much as it was so difficult, we got used to it, right? Where it was like, oh, I'm just going to wake up and chaos will be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Versus if you don't navigate your day and plan out tomorrow, and if you just plan to wing it, there is going to be change, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that. I'd love to remind everybody that tomorrow is a new day. And yes, yesterday for me was a really bad day. It made me question all things.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many days in the last 90 days where I have just put my head down and just been like, this is the most discouraging, depressing thing. There's just been so many times. But I would just get up the next day and I would just do it again.
Yeah.
And I think too many of us, when we get, when the wind starts blowing, we feel that resistance and we just cave. And instead of leaning in and going, yeah, you know what, there's wind here and I'm going to have to press forward because this ain't happening any other way. And there were several moments over the last several months where even I personally, and I know a lot of other agents have been going, well, maybe I need to just, get a job. And there was a point where I just made up my mind and I just said, come hell or high water, I have a job.
You do. Yeah.
This is my job. This is my work. I'm showing up every day. At some point, I'm going to get paid again.
We've tried to take the approach here the last year or two because I saw this coming and I started sharing with people about mental toughness and so forth. That this is a good thing. I know it's painful, but it's a good thing because most, as you know, both of you know, most people, no offense to anybody, I don't want pain for anybody, but most people don't have the tenacity or the focus or the commitment to see success when things are tougher.
Yeah.
And so that's when things fall apart. And that's why I've been telling people for years, the battleground's here. You got to make sure you're feeding yourself here. You've got to make sure you're taking care of yourself here. You've got to make sure you're reading or prioritizing like Miracle
Morning.
Yeah, Miracle Morning for Realtors. I'm sorry. I'm treating you like Connie. She has to finish my sentences sometimes, or Chrissy.
Ready.
But you got to make sure that foundation is being taken care of for yourself because you can only pour out what's inside.
That's right.
And if you start pouring out too much, then it starts getting to our mind. Before I forget, I know that Carey Ann has heard me talk about this book, but you're a book guy. If you haven't read Unreasonable Hospitality.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it yet. I've heard it's really good.
Check it out. You got to check it out because it's written by the owner of the #1 restaurant in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, in the world. And I was sharing one little tidbit on that, and I know it's a side note, but it is relative to thinking out of the box. We've touched on that a little bit. Did you know, are you familiar with the Michelin star in a restaurant? It probably don't have them around here probably,
Yeah,
but anyhow, it's if you're a high-end restaurant, that is the ultimate, is to be a Michelin star, okay? And then they go to 3 stars, I think is what it is. Any idea what the history is behind that? Okay.
There's a Halloween costume.
So the Michelin star
Michelin Man
was created by 2 brothers who owned the Michelin tires company back in the late 1800s. And so what they did in France was the great idea, and that's why I'm encouraging agents, think out of the box. How can you create business? They decided that if they could go out in the top restaurants, give reviews for them, create a booklet for people to carry around with their marketing in it, with their advertising in it, and that this restaurant's they would be putting more miles on their tires and therefore have to buy more tires. That's how the Michelin star ranking ever came to fruition. So anyhow, read the book, Unreasonable Hospitality. It will get you thinking out of the box as far as how can I impress my clients? How can I just wow them beyond? I mean, I know we're not in the restaurant business, but it's not that far off.
No.
We're serving people.
Yeah.
We're serving humanity. Those that have trusted us with this. So check out the book, Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah, and I think, going back to when you are feeling a little low, and if you are, tomorrow is a new day, right? We're gifted tomorrow. Show up, right? Go to a class, and then put your hand out, because I think sometimes we just need someone to grab it and help us, and remind us that, and the people that have been, in this business a really long time, remind us that tomorrow is a new day and the market's going to shift like you referenced. And if you have an opportunity, be sure to go on Amazon. You can purchase it because that's where I purchased it. The 7 Spheres of Friend Maker, How to Build Business on Friendship, was written by this man right here. And if you can take one of his classes, it's amazing. So very grateful to have you part
Looking
of
forward to the next
ours,
class.
and welcome to the RG family.
Yeah.
I think that is a big win as well. And Monte, it's always good to see you.
Good to see you. Hey, real quickly, before we leave, Art, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you've been in the business now about 10 years.
Yeah.
And you could go anywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
And recently you made a decision to come to Realty One Group Music City.
Yeah.
This is not an infomercial, okay? But it is, I'd like to just summarize it, why Realty One Group?
Yeah. Well, so it's really funny. There was another organization I was a part of for several years before the last couple brokerages. And I always told folks that it was like working for my grandfather, right? And which I love my grandfather. He was great. He's dependable. As I'm moving into this one, I feel like I'm working for my cool grandfather.
Look at that.
Well,
Boom.
I love you, brother.
Hey, that was so good.
No, but listen, I mean, I love the idea of your culture. I love
Thank
what
you.
y'all are doing, what you represent here. I respect you. I know a lot of people who know you, and so
I respect you too.
that makes a big difference to me. Who's leading the helm, makes a difference. But the opportunities, talking to Daniel, that's the franchise owner here, just looking forward to learning some new things and growing with the company. So
we're looking
stuff.
forward to helping you
Yeah.
go there, brother.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for
And
sharing
thank
with
you,
us today.
everybody. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.